Hey guys, this is Aaron bringing you on the inside look of what it takes to start out the leadership organization real time. I'm right now working on a book called Volumployee, which merges the leadership concepts of leading volunteers with leading employees and really the overlap of those two, because there should be some overlap. Here's the reality of the situation, which is what I titled my introduction. The reality of the situation is we see volunteers and employees way differently, and there's an underlying factor of why we treat volunteers and employees differently. Here are some of the thought processes that went through my head as I started noticing how I led volunteers and employees differently. Volunteers work for free. Employees are getting paid. Volunteers also have jobs and families and outside life. This is the employee's job. Volunteers don't owe me anything. Employees owe me something. Volunteers don't have to show up tomorrow. Employees do have to show up tomorrow. Volunteers have little skin in the game. Employees have a lot of skin in the game. Again, those are the thoughts. I'm going to be a little vulnerable with you today. Not all those thoughts are necessarily pure or accurate, but that's what was going on inside my head. And as I reflected as to why I view these people so differently, I began to notice something. I had an entitled mentality. I know entitled is one of those words that we like to use on other people and never for ourselves, but if I really stop and think about it and process it correctly, I had this entitled mentality, and I'm ashamed of that. I felt like I was entitled something special from employees simply because they were getting paid. Because I was maybe higher up on the organizational chart, or I was making calls, or they had certain responsibilities that they owed me. I started getting this entitlement attitude, and that was destroying me as a leader. Here's the reality of the situation. While volunteers may not have as much skin in the game, they don't necessarily have to show up tomorrow. I mean, the definition of volunteers, they're giving of themselves freely. The employee has just as many options as the volunteer does. The employee doesn't have to show up tomorrow. If the employee decides to resign, they don't have any skin in the game. The employee doesn't necessarily owe me anything more than anyone else does or less than anyone else does. They're a person. This was a huge attitude check for me, so I had to make a decision. Am I going to lead them the same, or am I going to change my leadership approach? I decided to make some changes, and here's why. Employees will join an organization because of the vision, because of what it stands for, because of the idea of working for them, but they leave organizations because of people. Most of the time because of the boss. I didn't want to be that boss or that leader, that person that pushed an employee out. So I made changes, and I knew I was capable of changes because I had such a great volunteer team that gave of themselves, their time, their money, their energy, blood, sweat, and tears, their resources, and stuck through it through the long haul. That's the kind of leader I wanted to be for my employees. And so, as I assessed the situation, I decided I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to find out where this idea of volunteer leadership overlaps with employee leadership, and I want to be the best leader and the best boss that my employees have ever had and will ever have. That's my intro chapter. The whole manuscript is listed below in the blog. I would love to get your feedback, your thoughts. Again, write it down and make a post, or make a video dialogue and post it on here as well. And I'd love to hear back from you guys what you think of my introduction, the reality of the situation. I'll bring you the next chapter in next week's video update. Until then, lead well.